Hey guys, tonight we're going to talk about building something to last. Think about the most solid, most permanent thing you can imagine. Maybe a mountain, a sheer cliff face of ancient stone. Now, what if instead of building on that mountain, you decided to build inside it, to hollow it out from the inside, armed with nothing but simple tools, patient faith, and the faint, flickering light of a single oil lamp? Tonight, we journey to the high, rugged highlands of Armenia to explore the story of the monks who carved entire, breathtakingly complex churches out of solid rock. It's a story about faith as a form of architecture, and a testament to what humans can do when they are inspired by a divine vision. And it's a story of God you don't know. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a small, quiet gesture that helps this community of late-night history wanderers grow. And as always, I love seeing where you're all listening from. Go ahead and drop your city or country and the time in the comments. It's a wonderful way to feel connected in our shared stillness. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are standing on a high, windswept plateau. The air is thin and cold, and it smells of wild thyme and dust. The landscape around you is vast, severe, and beautiful. This is the Armenian highlands, a rugged, mountainous land that feels like the very rooftop of the world. In the distance, you can see the magnificent snow-capped peak of Mount Ararat, a silent, white giant against a deep blue sky. For the people who live here, this is not just a mountain. It is the sacred heart of their nation, the place where the Bible says Noah's Ark came to rest after the great flood. This is a land that has lived with stories of God since the beginning of time. The year is 301 AD. The Roman Empire, which dominates the known world to your west, is still a pagan empire. The Emperor Diocletian is in the middle of launching the last and most brutal persecution of the Christians within his borders. Across the Mediterranean world, to be a Christian is to be a criminal, to live in fear of the arena, the fire, and the sword. But here, in this small, isolated kingdom, something revolutionary is happening. Your king, Tiridates III, has just done the unthinkable. He has declared that Armenia is now a Christian nation. It is a decision that will change the course of history. You have just become a citizen of the world's very first Christian state, almost a decade before Constantine would issue his Edict of Milan, and long before the Roman Empire itself would embrace the faith. This was not a quiet, academic decision. It was born of a dramatic, almost operatic story of faith, betrayal, and miracles. Your king, Tiridates, had been a fierce persecutor of the new Christian faith. He had thrown its leader, a nobleman named Gregory, into a deep pit called carve, the deep dungeon, to be left to die. But Gregory did not die. The story you are told is that for 13 long years, a pious local widow, moved by a vision, secretly lowered a loaf of bread down into the pit each day, keeping him alive. It's a story that feels a bit like a reverse Rapunzel, but with bread instead of hair, and significantly more snakes. After 13 years, the king was struck by a strange and terrible malady. The legends say he began to act like a wild boar, rooting in the forests. His sister had a dream that the only person who could heal the king was the holy man he had left to rot in the pit. Desperate, they pull Gregory out. He is pale and thin, but his spirit is unbroken. He prays over the king, and the king is miraculously healed. In gratitude, and with the conviction of a convert, King Tiridates declares that the God of Gregory will now be the God of Armenia. He makes Gregory the first head of the Armenian church, giving him the title Luciferic, or the Illuminator. Historians still debate the political calculations behind this move. Was it a pure act of faith on the king's part, or was it also a savvy geopolitical decision, a way for Armenia to assert its unique identity and create a cultural firewall against its too powerful and often predatory neighbors, the pagan Roman Empire to the west, and the Zoroastrian Persian Empire to the east? It was likely both. Faith and survival, in this part of the world, have always been deeply intertwined. For you, an ordinary Armenian, the decision changes your world. The old pagan temples are torn down or rededicated, the sacred fires of the Zoroastrians are extinguished, and a new monumental task begins. You must now build houses for this new god. You must build churches. But what kind of church do you build in a land that is itself made of stone, a land that lives in the shadow of a holy mountain? You will not just build on the rock. You will build with it. You will build in it. You will take the very substance of your harsh and beautiful land, and you will carve your faith directly into its heart. Your king is converted. Your nation is now Christian. But a new faith needs a new heart, a central place of worship, a mother church for the entire kingdom. King Tiridates is ready to build. He has the wealth, the workers, the power, but there is one problem. Where do you build it? Where do you place the most sacred building in the entire nation? The king cannot decide. The nobles cannot agree. The decision is left to the man who brought this new faith to you, Saint Gregory the Illuminator. He retreats into a period of intense prayer and fasting, asking God for a sign, for a divine blueprint, and one night, in a dream, or perhaps a waking vision, he receives his answer. You are there with him. In his vision, You are standing in the middle of a vast, open plain near the royal capital city of Agashapat. The world is bathed in a strange ethereal twilight. And then, the sky rips open. A torrent of brilliant, unbearable light pours down from the heavens. A great column of fire that connects the earth and the sky. It is not a destructive fire, but a creative one. A light so pure it seems to be the very substance of God himself. And, within this column of light, you see a figure descending. It is the figure of a man, his face radiating a calm and terrible majesty. It is Christ himself. In his hand, he holds not a sword or a scepter, but a great golden hammer, the tool of a divine craftsman, a celestial architect. As Christ descends, the column of light is filled with other beings, an army of angels, their forms shimmering and indistinct, their wings like polished silver. The air is filled with the sound of their voices, a harmony so beautiful and so powerful that it feels like it could rearrange the very atoms of the universe. The figure of Christ touches down on the earth, and he strikes the ground with his golden hammer, and at the spot where the hammer strikes, the vision shows a great domed temple of gold rising from the earth, surmounted by a glowing cross. It is a perfect, divine image of the church that is to be built. Christ has not given Gregory a set of verbal instructions or a rolled-up scroll. He has shown him the finished product. He has given him an architectural revelation. Then, from the base of this central golden church, 4 great columns of light shoot out, marking the locations for 4 smaller chapels, each one dedicated to a martyr who had died during the recent persecutions. It is a complete site plan, a sacred map drawn in fire and light upon the land. Gregory wakes from his vision, the sound of the angelic choir still ringing in his ears. He knows what he must do. He goes to the king, and he describes what he has seen. He leads him to the very spot on the plain where Christ struck the earth with his hammer, and he calls the place Historians and linguists still debate the precise translation of this beautiful Armenian word. It means, roughly, the only begotten descended. It is a name that is also a story. It is a permanent, geographical marker of a divine encounter. The very ground you are standing on is now holy, not because of an old pagan legend, but because it is the place where God himself came down to be his own architect. This story becomes the foundational myth of the Armenian Church. It is a story of immense power. It means that your faith is not a foreign import, a religion brought to you from Rome or Jerusalem. The design for your most sacred space came directly from heaven, right here, on your own soil. It gives the Armenian Church a fierce sense of independence, a belief that they have a direct, unmediated connection to God. And so the work begins. On that very spot, you and your fellow Armenians, under the guidance of Gregory and the patronage of the king, begin to build. You are not just building a church, you are building a vision. You are attempting to replicate, in humble wood and stone, the glorious golden temple you were shown in a dream. The vision has been granted, the sacred ground has been marked. Now, the immense, practical, and very human work of building begins. You are part of the great crowd that gathers on the plain of Agashapat to witness the laying of the foundation stones. It is a moment of profound national and spiritual importance. You are not just building a house, you are building the heart of your new Christian kingdom. The original church that St. Gregory and King Theology built on this spot is not the great stone cathedral that stands today. The first ekmiadzin is likely a more humble affair, probably built of wood, in the style of a Roman basilica with a rectangular nave and a simple gabled roof. But it is built on the exact spot revealed in the vision, and it is consecrated as the mother church of all Armenia. As the centuries pass, this original wooden church is rebuilt and expanded again and again, becoming the magnificent stone cathedral that is now the center of the Armenian Apostolic Church. But something else happens as well. The architectural style begins to change. The Armenian builders, while influenced by the traditions of Rome and Byzantium, start to develop a unique architectural language of their own, one perfectly suited to their land and their faith. Their primary building material is the stone of the highlands itself. They become masters of working with the local volcanic tuff, a relatively soft, porous stone that is easy to quarry and carve, but which hardens with exposure to the air. This tuff comes in a beautiful range of colors, a somber gray, a warm pink, a rich, earthy orange. The churches they build are not a uniform, monotonous gray. They are a reflection of the varied, colorful geology of the land itself, and they develop a unique structural design. Instead of the long, rectangular basilica, they favor a centrally planned church. The layout is often a square or a cross-in square, with a high, central dome supported by 4 massive pillars. This design focuses all the attention inward and upward, towards the dome, which represents the vault of heaven. When you stand inside an Armenian church, you are not being led on a journey down a long aisle towards a distant altar. You are standing directly under the dome of heaven, in the very center of the cosmos. These churches are built to last. The walls are thick, the windows are small and narrow, and the overall impression is one of immense, fortress-like solidity. This is not just an aesthetic choice. It is a practical necessity. Remember, you live in a dangerous neighborhood, caught between powerful empires. Your churches are not just houses of prayer. They are also potential sanctuaries, places of last resort in a time of invasion. They are spiritual fortresses, built to protect the body as well as the soul, and they are decorated with a unique and beautiful form of art. The kakor, or instead of painted icons or frescoes, which were favored by the Byzantines, the Armenians become masters of stone carving. A kakor is a large, upright slab of stone, on which is carved an incredibly intricate and ornate cross. But it is not a crucifix showing the suffering body of Christ. It is a flowering cross, a cross that is depicted as a living, branching tree of life, often surrounded by a web of complex, geometric and botanical patterns. It is a symbol not of death, but of resurrection and eternal life. Historians still debate the origins of this unique art form. Are the intricate, interwoven patterns a Christianized version of older, pre-Christian Armenian or Persian motifs? Or are they inspired by the famous Celtic knotwork brought by missionaries? Whatever their origin, they become the defining feature of Armenian sacred art. The churches are covered in them, each one unique, a testament to the skill and the piety of the anonymous stone carver who created it. So, a distinct Armenian style is born, a style defined by colored tuff, by centrally planned, domed churches, by fortress-like solidity, and by the intricate lace-like beauty of the kakor. This is the architectural language that will be used for 1,000 years. And it is this language that will eventually be turned inward as the monks begin to carve their churches, not from quarried blocks of stone, but from the living rock of the earth itself. The golden age of Armenian church building has begun. Cathedrals and churches, built in your unique national style, rise across the highlands. They are powerful statements of your new Christian identity, but your kingdom is a small island of faith in a vast and turbulent sea. Your geography is your destiny, and it is a difficult one. You are living on a perpetual fault line, a place where empires have always collided. To your west lies the immense power of the Christian Roman Empire, which you now call the Byzantine Empire. They are your co-religionists, your brothers in faith. But they are also your rivals. They practice a different rite, the Greek rite, and they look upon your independent Armenian Apostolic Church with a certain suspicion. They see you as other, perhaps even heretical, because you did not accept the rulings of the Council of Chalcedon. They are a powerful, sometimes friendly, but often overbearing neighbor who would very much like to absorb your church into their own. To your east lies the even greater and more ancient power of the Persian Sasanian Empire, and they are not Christian. They are followers of the ancient religion of Zoroastrianism, a faith of fire temples, and a cosmic battle between light and darkness. They see your new Christian kingdom as a political and cultural threat, a dangerous Western influence on their border. They have not forgotten that Armenia was once under their dominion, and they want it back. You are caught in the middle of a centuries-long tug-of-war between these two superpowers. It is a geopolitical nightmare. Your kings and princes must become masters of diplomacy and shifting alliances, playing one empire off against the other in a desperate attempt to maintain your fragile independence. An Armenian ruler might ally with the Byzantines to push back the Persians one year, only to find himself fighting the Byzantines with Persian help a decade later. It's like living in a small house between two very large, very powerful, and very unfriendly neighbors who are constantly arguing over your fence. The land itself becomes a permanent battleground. One generation, a Persian army sweeps through, burning villages and trying to forcibly reconvert your people to Zoroastrianism. By putting out the candles in your churches and lighting their sacred fires on your altars, you fight back in a desperate guerrilla war. Led by warrior saints like Vardan Mamikonian, you lose the battle, but you win the war. Securing your right to practice your faith, the next generation. A Byzantine army marches in, ostensibly to protect you from the Persians, but then they stay. They install their own governors, they demand you conform to their version of Christianity, and they tax you into poverty. This constant state of invasion, warfare, and persecution has a profound effect on the Armenian spirit. It creates a deep desire for security, for refuge, for places where the faith can be preserved, untouched by the chaos of the outside world. The great cathedrals on the open plains, like Ekmiadzin, are beautiful, but they are also vulnerable. They are obvious targets for any invading army. And so, a new spiritual movement begins. Monks and hermits, seeking a deeper solitude and a greater security, begin to turn away from the cities and the plains. They look to the most inaccessible, most defensible parts of your land, the great sheer-walled canyons and the remote mountain valleys. They are following the old tradition of the desert fathers, seeking God in the wilderness. But in Armenia, the wilderness is not a desert of sand. It is a wilderness of rock. You are a young monk, tired of the endless political turmoil. You decide to join one of these new, remote communities. You leave the city and you travel for days. Up into the mountains, you come to a deep, dramatic gorge, a river cutting through towering cliffs of volcanic rock, and there, carved into the cliff face itself, you see the small, dark openings of caves. This is your new home. You are not just retreating from the world. You are retreating into the world, into the very bones of the earth. Your faith is about to go underground. Asterisk, you have followed the call into the wilderness, into the deep, echoing silence of the rock canyons. The place you have come to is a narrow gorge carved by the Azot River. The cliffs here are a soft, pale, volcanic, tough, sheer, and imposing. For centuries, this has been a holy place. Long before the arrival of Christianity, the pre-Christian Armenians considered the spring that emerges from a cave here to be sacred. It was a place of the nymphs, the spirits of the water. When St. Gregory brought the new faith to this land, he did not destroy the old sacred places. He baptized them. He built a small chapel near the sacred spring, rededicating the old pagan site to the new Christian god. He founded a small monastic community here, and because of the many caves, the place was known as Erevank, the Monastery of the Cave. For hundreds of years, this is what the monastery remains. A small, conventional community of monks living in natural caves, and a simple stone-built chapel. They are hermits, living a life of quiet prayer, their days governed by the slow rhythm of the sun and the seasons. They are hidden, protected by the sheer rock walls of the gorge. But in the 12th and 13th centuries, a new wave of creative and spiritual energy sweeps through Armenia. The country is enjoying a brief period of renewed independence and prosperity under the rule of the Zakharian princes, who act as powerful vassals to the neighboring kingdom of Georgia. A new, noble family, the Puritans, becomes the patrons of your small cave monastery, and they do not just want to fund a simple chapel. They have a grander, more audacious vision. They want to sponsor a work of architecture that is also a profound statement of faith and permanence. The decision is made. You will no longer just live in the caves. You will transform the mountain itself into a church. You will not build with stone blocks quarried and carried to the site. You will carve your sanctuary directly from the living rock of the cliff face. You are standing at the base of the cliff, looking up. The rock face is a sheer, blank canvas of gray and pink tuff. But you and your fellow monks do not see a blank wall. You see a church waiting to be released. You see pillars, arches, and a great central dome, all currently trapped inside the mountain. Your job is not to build, but to excavate, to subtract, to remove everything that is not the church, until only the church itself remains. It is an act of reverse sculpture on a monumental scale. The first major rock-cut structure you helped to create is the Geghard, a large narthex or entrance hall, connected to the original freestanding chapel. It is a massive, square room, its ceiling supported by 4 huge, freestanding pillars, all of which are part of the original, monolithic rock. Light filters in from a central opening in the roof, illuminating a space of immense solid and silent power. Later, the legends grow. This monastery becomes the repository for one of the most sacred relics in all of Christendom, the Holy Lance, the very spear that pierced the side of Christ on the cross. The story tells that it was brought to Armenia by the Apostle Thaddeus. Whether this is historically true is debated by scholars, but for the faithful, it is an absolute reality. And because of this relic, the monastery's name changes. It is no longer just Erevank, the monastery of the cave. It is now Geghard, the monastery of the spear. This new, sacred status only fuels the desire for more ambitious works. The Prussian princes fund the creation of a second, even more magnificent rock-cut church, higher up the cliff face. The work will take decades. It will be a slow, patient, and prayerful act of creation through destruction. You look at the blank rock face where the new church will be. You take a simple iron chisel and a heavy wooden mallet, you say a prayer, and you strike the first blow. The sound of your hammer, a sharp clink against the stone, echoes in the vast silence of the gorge. The great work has begun. Before a single chip of stone can be carved, the church must first be built in the mind of one person. You are not just a laborer, you are an apprentice, watching a master at work. You stand with the master architect, a monk named Galdzak, as he studies the cliff face. He is the creative genius behind the second, more ambitious church, the one commissioned by the Prussian princes. He does not use parchment and ink to draw up his plans. His blueprint is in his head. He possesses a kind of three-dimensional intuitive spatial reasoning that is almost impossible for you to comprehend. He must visualize the entire finished church, every pillar, every arch, every curve of the dome, a complete, hollow space existing within the solid mountain. He has to plan the church in reverse, from the outside in. It's like trying to build a ship in a bottle, but the bottle is a mountain, and the ship is a cathedral, and you have to carve the bottle from around the ship that only you can see. It spends days, weeks, just looking at the rock. He studies its grain, its fissures, its subtle changes in color. He is listening to the stone, trying to understand where the church wants to be. He must plan for the immense weight of the rock that will remain above the hollowed-out space. One miscalculation, one pillar made too thin, or one arch placed in a weak section of the rock, and the entire mountain could collapse, burying the workers and their holy work forever. Historians and engineers still marvel at the technical skill of these medieval architects. Working without modern geological surveys or structural engineering software, they accomplished feats that would be daunting even today. Their knowledge was not theoretical. It was practical, tactile, passed down from master to apprentice. deep, instinctual understanding of the living rock. Once the architect has the complete vision in his mind, he marks the entrance. Then, the real, back-breaking, and incredibly slow work begins. A team of monk masons, yourself among them, starts to carve. You begin by creating a tunnel, a narrow passage leading horizontally into the heart of the cliff. The only light you have to work by comes from small, shallow clay lamps filled with linseed oil, each one giving off a flickering, smoky, and deeply inadequate light. The air inside the tunnel quickly becomes thick with stone dust, the smell of the oil lamps, and the sweat of the workers. The sound is a constant, rhythmic clink, clink, clink of dozens of hammers and chisels against the stone, a sound that echoes endlessly in the confined space. You are not digging a mine, hunting for a vein of gold. You are doing the opposite. You are carving out emptiness. You are creating a void, and the work proceeds in the most counterintuitive way imaginable. You do not start from the floor and build up. You start from the ceiling and carve down. You first carve out the highest point of the church, the very top of the central dome. You are standing on a platform of solid rock that will, eventually, be carved away to become the floor, which is still many feet below you. From this high perch, you begin to shape the ceiling. You carve the intricate ribs of the dome. You release the elegant, curving arches from the stone. You define the tops of the massive pillars that will support the roof. It is a terrifying upside-down process. You are creating the ceiling of a room you are not yet standing in, trusting completely in the master architect's vision and the solidity of the rock beneath your feet. This process is incredibly slow. A team of a few dozen monks might spend an entire lifetime carving out a single church. It is a multi-generational act of faith. A monk might begin his life's work carving the dome, knowing he will likely not live to see the day when the final floor is smoothed and the church is consecrated. You are not working for yourself. You are not working for fame. You are a small, anonymous part of a great and holy project. A single note in a symphony of stone that will echo for 1,000 years. Asterisk. The work continues, inch by painstaking inch. You are part of a human machine, a small army of anonymous craftsmen, moving deeper into the mountain's heart. The master architect Galdzak is your general, directing the work, his vision, the map you all follow. Your days are a blur of dust, sweat, and the endless, percussive music of the hammers. You are now deep inside the emerging church, still standing on the solid rock that will one day be removed to create the floor. Above you, the great central dome is complete. It is a masterpiece. In its center is a hole, an oculus, a single round opening that a man could climb through, which was the final point of exit for the men who carved it. This oculus is now the only source of natural light, a single, brilliant shaft of daylight that spears down into the dusty darkness, moving across the chamber like a slow celestial clock hand as the sun traverses the sky. Now that the ceiling is finished, the next stage of this upside-down construction begins. You start to carve your way downwards. You are not just quarrying out rock, you are revealing the architecture that the master has already seen in his mind. The first things to emerge from the mass of stone are the pillars. You carve around a huge, square section of the original rock, slowly, carefully, defining its edges, until it separates from the walls and stands free. It is a colossal monolithic pillar, connected to the ceiling above and the floor to be below, all carved from a single unbroken piece of stone. You repeat this 4 times. And now the great pillars that will support the dome for the next 1,000 years are standing in the gloom. Next, you reveal the arches. You carve away the rock between the tops of the pillars and the side walls, creating the elegant, soaring curves that connect the central space to the side chambers. Every curve must be perfect, every calculation precise. There is no room for error. You cannot add stone back once it has been removed. A modern architect might use concrete or steel to correct a mistake. Your only tools are precision and prayer. It's like performing surgery on a mountain. You only get one chance to make the cut. The sheer volume of rock being removed is staggering. Tens of thousands of tons of stone must be chipped away, broken into manageable pieces, and hauled out of the church through the narrow entrance tunnel in woven baskets on the backs of men and donkeys. The logistics of the debris removal alone are a monumental feat. Historians still speculate about the tools they used. They were simple, iron and steel chisels of various sizes, heavy mallets, and immense physical endurance. The masons likely had to constantly resharpen their chisels, and you can imagine a smithy set up near the monastery, its fire glowing day and night, a constant supply line of sharp steel, feeding the great work inside the mountain. As you carve deeper and deeper, the space begins to take on a life of its own. It is a strange, subterranean world. The air is always cool, the light is always dim, and the acoustics are unlike anything you have ever experienced. The sharp clink of a single chisel seems to hang in the air, echoing endlessly. The chanted psalms of the monks as they work create a deep, resonant, and almost overwhelmingly powerful hum, the sound trapped and amplified by the solid stone. After years, perhaps decades, of this relentless top-down work, you finally reach the intended level of the floor. The last layers of rock are chipped away and smoothed, and for the first time, You can stand on the finished floor and look up at the dome and the pillars you helped to carve so long ago. The feeling is one of profound, almost unbelievable accomplishment. You have not built a church, you have unveiled one. You have excavated a prayer from the heart of the living rock, releasing a holy space that was, in the mind of God, in the vision of your architect, already there. The great, raw space has been hollowed from the mountain. The pillars stand firm, the dome soars into the darkness above. The church exists, but it is a blank canvas, a powerful but plain statement in stone. Now, the second stage of the work begins. The masons who remove the mountain must now become artists. The same hands that wielded the heavy mallets must now pick up the finest, most delicate chisels. It is time to make the stone sing. You are no longer removing tons of debris. You are now working on a single patch of wall, your face just inches from the cool rock. The space is still lit by the same flickering oil lamps, their light casting deep, dancing shadows that make the stone seem to breathe. Your task is to carve the kakars, the great stone crosses that are the unique, defining glory of Armenian sacred art. You do not begin by drawing a design on the stone. The design is in your mind, a complex pattern of interwoven lines and symbols. You have learned from your master. You place the point of your sharpest chisel against the wall and you make the first, tentative tap. You are not cutting deep. You are sketching in stone, your chisel a pencil of steel. Slowly, the image begins to emerge. At its center is the cross. But it is not the stark, bare cross of a crucifixion. It is a living, vibrant cross, its arms branching out like the limbs of a great tree. From its base, leaves and pomegranates sprout. It is the tree of life, a symbol of resurrection and paradise restored. It is a cross that speaks not of an ending, but of a new beginning. Around this central cross, you begin to weave a complex web of decoration. You carve intricate, endless knotwork patterns, their lines looping over and under one another with a perfect, mathematical precision. These knots have no beginning and no end, a symbol of eternity, of the timeless, unchanging nature of God. They are a prayer against the chaos and decay of the outside world. You carve geometric rosettes, symbols of the sun, or perhaps of the divine light of Christ. You carve grapevines and bunches of grapes, a clear reference to the wine of the Eucharist, the blood of the new covenant. Every element is symbolic. Every line is a prayer. Every chip of stone removed is an act of devotion. Historians and art historians still marvel at the sheer artistic and technical skill of these anonymous monks to create such delicate lace-like patterns in solid rock, working in poor light and with simple tools, is an achievement of the highest order. It required immense patience, a rock-steady hand, and a profound understanding of the stone itself. But you are not just decorating the walls. In some of the churches at Geghard, the work becomes even more audacious. In the upper rock-cut chapel, the Prussian family tomb, the carvers create a stunning, almost unbelievable feature. They carve the family's coat of arms directly into the wall, two lions chained together, their tails ending in dragons' heads, and between them, an eagle with a half-devoured lamb in its talons. It is a powerful, almost pagan-looking symbol of feudal power, a statement of the family's earthly importance, carved directly into the sacred space where they will be laid to rest. This mixing of the secular and the sacred is fascinating, shows that these churches were not just otherworldly places of prayer. They were also deeply connected to the life and the power structures of the world outside. They were memorials, tombs, and statements of political identity as well as houses of God. You put down your chisel and hold your lamp up to the finished cock. In the flickering light, the intricate, deeply carved patterns seem to come alive, the shadows shifting and dancing. The stone no longer feels like a dead, inert thing. It feels like a living, breathing lace. You have taken the brute substance of the mountain and, through long, patient, prayerful work, you have transformed it. You have made the stone itself, praise God. The church is finished. The last of the stone dust has been swept away. The carvings are complete. The space, once a place of noisy, percussive labor, now settles into a new kind of life, a life of profound and holy silence. But it is a silence with a unique character, an acoustic fingerprint found nowhere else on earth. You are standing in the center of the main rock-cut church, directly under the dome. It is the middle of the day, but the only light is the single, dramatic column of sunlight from the oculus high above, and the faint, warm glow of a few oil lamps placed in niches. The air is cool and still, and it smells of ancient stone, of incense, and of the faint, lingering scent of linseed oil. The silence is absolute. It is a heavy, weighted silence, a silence that has been absorbed into the thousands of tons of solid rock that surround you on every side. There is no sound from the outside world, no wind, no bird song, no distant shouts. The mountain itself is a perfect sound insulator. The only sound is your own breathing. Then, the abbot enters. He walks to the center of the space, opens his mouth, and begins to chant the opening of a psalm. And the sound that he produces, and the way the room responds to it, is utterly astonishing. His single, unaccompanied voice does not just fill the space, it seems to excite the very stone itself. The sound does not decay or fade away as it would in a wooden church. It has nowhere to go. It cannot escape through thin walls or glass windows. It is trapped. The sound waves strike the hard rock of the walls, the pillars, and the dome, and they are reflected back with an almost perfect efficiency. The result is a reverberation that is almost endless. A single, short note sung by the abbot seems to hang in the air for an impossibly long time. 5, 10, perhaps even 15 seconds. A ghostly echo that slowly, reluctantly, fades into silence. It's like singing inside a giant stone bell. When the choir of monks begins to sing together, the effect is even more profound. The traditional Armenian chants, with their slow, melodic, and microtonal phrases, are perfectly suited to this environment. The monks must sing very slowly, leaving long pauses between phrases to allow the immense reverberation of the previous phrase to die away before beginning the next. To sing quickly would be to create a cacophony, a muddy, incomprehensible wall of sound. The music they make is therefore slow, deliberate, and deeply meditative. Each note is an event. Each phrase is allowed to bloom and expand, to fill the entire chamber, to merge with the echoes of the notes that came before it, creating a complex string tapestry of overlapping sound. Historians and acoustics who study these spaces today are fascinated by their unique sonic properties. They are, in effect, the world's first, and perhaps greatest, echo chambers. Some have speculated that the monks may have even tuned the rooms as they carved them, subtly altering the angles of the walls or the curve of the dome to achieve a specific, desired acoustic effect. This is difficult to prove, but it is clear that the monks who lived and prayed in these spaces would have developed a unique style of chanting, one perfectly adapted to the living voice of the stone. You close your eyes, and you just listen. The sound is all around you, above you, inside you. It is a physical presence. It feels less like you are listening to music, and more like you are floating in an ocean of sound. The boundary between your own voice and the voice of your brother, between the sound and the echo, between the singer and the stone, begins to dissolve. You understand now that these churches were not designed for fiery rhetorical sermons. They were designed for the slow, hypnotic, and enveloping power of the sung prayer. The church itself is an instrument, and the monks who pray within it are its players. It is an architecture designed not for the eye, but for the ear, and ultimately, for the soul. The sound of the church is a shield, creating a world of prayerful, resonant peace. But the rock itself is a shield of a different kind. These monasteries, hidden deep in the mountain gorges, were not just sanctuaries for the soul. They were, also, the safest vaults in the kingdom, the ultimate repository for Armenia's most precious and vulnerable treasures, its books. You are back in the scriptorium, but here at Geghard, the scriptorium is not a separate wooden building, vulnerable to fire and invaders. It is another rock-cut chamber, a dry, cool, and almost perfectly secure library, carved directly into the mountain. The air smells of old parchment, ink, and the faint, sweet scent of the beeswax used to seal the leather bindings. You watch as a librarian monk, the guardian of the monastery's knowledge, unlocks a heavy wooden chest. He reverently lifts out a book. It is a large, heavy codex, its cover made of thick wooden boards, bound in dark leather, and decorated with silver and semi-precious stones. He places it on a reading lectern and opens it for you. The page that is revealed takes your breath away. It is a page from an illuminated gospel, a masterpiece of Armenian manuscript art. The text is written in the elegant angular letters of the Armenian alphabet, an alphabet invented in the 5th century by a monk named Meshtat specifically to translate the Bible into the Armenian language. The alphabet itself is a statement of national and religious identity, but it is the illustrations that truly captivate you. The page is a riot of color and intricate design. There is a full-page portrait of an evangelist, his face serene and stylized, his robes a cascade of deep blues and brilliant reds made from precious lapis lazuli and crushed insects. The borders of the page are a dense, living tapestry of intertwined birds, vines, and fantastical animals, their forms woven together, with the same endless, geometric precision as the stone cockers outside. And everywhere, there is gold. The halos of the saints, the background of the scenes, the first letter of a new chapter all are covered in a thin, shimmering layer of shell gold, which catches the faint lamplight and makes the entire page seem to glow with an inner divine fire. To create a single book like this was the work of a lifetime, a collaboration between many different artisans. There was the scribe, with his perfect, steady hand. There was the illuminator, the master artist who painted the miniatures. There was the binder who fashioned the cover. And there was the person who prepared the parchment, a long and smelly process of cleaning, scraping, and stretching animal skins until they became a smooth, durable, and incredibly expensive writing surface. A single large Bible might require the skins of an entire herd of calves. These books were not just objects, they were holy relics. They were the physical embodiment of God's word and the preservers of the people's history and identity. And in a world of constant invasion and destruction, keeping them safe was a sacred duty. The rock-cut monasteries were the perfect place for this. They were fireproof, they were hidden, they were defensible. They were the great stone libraries of the Armenian kingdom. Historians still uncover the treasures that were preserved in these remote sanctuaries. While armies swept across the plains, burning the great libraries of the cities, the monks in places like Geghard and Noravank were quietly, patiently, copying their books, ensuring that the flame of Armenian learning would not be extinguished. You gently touch the page of the manuscript. The parchment is smooth and cool under your fingertips. You look at the brilliant, unfaded colors, preserved for centuries in the cool, stable darkness of this stone library. The monks who carved this church were not just carving a space for prayer. They were carving a safe, a vault, a fortress for the memory of their entire nation. The rock protected the books, and the books protected the soul of the people. Asterisk, the golden age of the Protean princes, that brief bright window of peace and artistic creation, cannot last. The great fault lines of empire that run beneath your homeland are always shifting. In the mid-13th century, a new and terrible storm gathers in the east. It is a storm of horses, of arrows, of a power so vast and so ruthless, it will remake the entire known world. The Mongols are coming. You are a monk at Geghard. The stories that trickle in from the east, brought by terrified merchants and refugees on the Silk Road, are almost too dreadful to believe. They speak of a great unstoppable horde, an army of nomadic warriors on shaggy ponies, led by the descendants of the great Genghis Khan. They speak of cities that resist being wiped from the face of the earth, their entire populations massacred, their walls leveled. They speak of a military machine more efficient and more brutal than anything the Romans or the Persians ever created. At first, the Armenian princes try to accommodate them. They are masters of surviving between empires. After all, some princes submit, offering tribute and soldiers to the great Khan in exchange for being allowed to keep their lands and their faith. For a time, it seems this strategy might work. But one day, the storm arrives at your gates. You are working in the monastery's small vegetable garden, high up in the quiet gorge. Suddenly, the lookout in the tower rings the alarm bell. You look down the gorge and you see them. A detachment of Mongol warriors, their composite bows slung across their backs, their faces weathered and hard, ride slowly into your valley. They are not a vast army, but a scouting party, which is perhaps even more dangerous. There is no panic, only a cold, practiced dread. The monks know what to do. You abandon your work and retreat into the cool, dark safety of the rock-cut church. The heavy stone doors are bolted. The books and relics are already hidden in the deepest, most secret chambers. You and your brothers huddle together in the main sanctuary, the one carved from the living rock. The silence inside is absolute. You wait, and you pray. The Mongol commander, a man with narrow, intelligent eyes, dismounts. He looks at this strange place, a monastery with no visible walls to conquer, a church that is part of the mountain itself. He is intrigued. He walks to the entrance of the main church. He cannot break down the stone door. He shouts commands in his strange guttural language, but the rock swallows the sound. He walks over to the original, freestanding chapel. His men easily break down its wooden door. They emerge a few minutes later, carrying the few simple silver candlesticks they found inside. It is a meager prize. The commander returns to the main rock-cut church. He walks around its base, touching the walls. He understands. This is not a building, it is a fortress. To take it would require a long, difficult siege. And for what? A handful of monks and whatever meager treasures they have managed to hide. It is not worth the effort. He looks up at the intricate cocker carved into the cliff face above the doorway. He runs his hand over the complex, lace-like patterns. He does not understand the symbolism of the flowering cross, but he understands power. He understands the immense faith and the terrifying patience it would take to create such a thing. He sees not a symbol of a rival religion, but a work of powerful magic, a sign that the spirits who inhabit this place are strong. Historians still debate the Mongol attitude towards Christianity. They were often pragmatically tolerant, respecting the holy men of the lands they conquered, believing their magic might be useful. The Mongol commander, standing in your quiet valley, makes a pragmatic decision. He barks an order. His men, who had been preparing to start a fire to smoke you out, stand down. He mounts his horse, gives one last, long look at the carved stone face of your church, and then, as silently as they arrived, he and his warriors ride away. You wait in the darkness for a long time, until the silence outside feels safe again. You unbolt the heavy door and step out into the sunlight. The freestanding chapel has been looted, but your sanctuary, the heart of your monastery, is untouched. The books are safe, the relics are secure, the faith has survived. You look up at the great stone walls that have protected you, and you offer a prayer of thanks. The rock, once again, has been your salvation. The Mongol storm has passed over you, leaving your hidden sanctuary miraculously intact. Your survival is a testament to the wisdom of your ancestors, who chose to carve their faith into the mountain. You have learned that the rock is not just a shield for the body, it is also a vault for the soul, a fireproof and warproof library for the memory of your people. In the quiet aftermath of the raid, you retreat to the scriptorium. Here at Geghard, the scriptorium is not a vulnerable wooden building. It is one of the most secure, secret chambers of the rock-cut complex. The air is cool, dry, and smells of old parchment, oak, gall ink, and the sweet, waxy scent of the leather bindings. In a world of chaos, this room is an island of perfect, quiet order. The librarian monk, the guardian of the monastery's collected wisdom, unbolts the heavy wooden door to a small, hidden niche, carved even deeper into the mountain. From within, he reverently lifts a book. It is a large, heavy codex, its cover made of thick wooden boards, bound in dark leather and decorated with plates of hammered silver and polished gemstones. He carries it to a slanted reading desk and opens it for you. The page that is revealed is a masterpiece. It is from an illuminated gospel, the pinnacle of Armenian manuscript art. The text is written in the elegant, angular script of the Armenian alphabet, an alphabet invented centuries earlier by the monk Mesrup Mashtotes, with the specific goal of translating the Bible into your native tongue. The alphabet itself is a profound statement of national identity, a declaration that you will speak to God in your own language, but it is the illustrations that steal your breath. A full-page portrait of St. John the Evangelist stares out with serene, almond-shaped eyes. His robes are a cascade of deep, brilliant blue, a pigment made from precious lapis lazuli stone, ground into a fine powder and mixed with egg yolk. This blue is more valuable than gold, a color reserved for the holiest of subjects. The background behind him is a solid sheet of shimmering gold leaf, which catches the faint light from your oil lamp and makes the entire page seem to radiate its own divine light. The borders of the page are not empty. They are a living, breathing tapestry of intricate design. You see birds with impossibly long, interwoven tails, vines that sprout into geometric patterns, and crosses that seem to flower into pomegranate trees. It is a visual representation of the Eden that was lost, and the paradise that is to come. Every detail is symbolic, every color is a prayer. You know the immense patient labor that a single book like this requires. You know it is the collaborative work of an entire community of artisans. The shepherd who tended the sheep whose skins would become the parchment, the tanner who prepared the skins in a long foul-smelling process, the scribe who sat for months, copying the text with a perfect, unwavering hand, and the illuminator, the master artist who, with a brush made from a few squirrel hairs, brought the page to life with color and gold. These books are the heart of your monastery. In a kingdom constantly threatened with being swallowed by larger empires, these manuscripts are a defiant act of cultural preservation. They are your history, your literature, your theology, your identity, all bound between two wooden covers. Historians will later discover that these remote, rock-cut monasteries were the crucial libraries that allowed Armenian culture to survive the centuries of invasion and upheaval. While the great cities on the plains were sacked and their libraries burned, the monks of Geghard and other mountain sanctuaries were in their stone scriptoriums quietly, patiently, copying. They were the guardians of a flame, and the rock was their fortress. You reach out and, with the utmost care, you touch the smooth, cool surface of the vellum. You look at the brilliant, perfectly preserved colors, safe for centuries in the cool, stable, fireproof darkness of this mountain library. You understand that the monks who carved this church were not just building a place to pray. They were building a vessel, a stone ark, designed to carry the soul of their nation through the coming storm. The Mongol storm, for now, has passed. The small detachment of warriors, having inspected your strange stone fortress and found it not worth the trouble of a prolonged siege, has ridden away. A profound, fragile quiet settles back over the gorge. You and your brothers emerge from the darkness of the rock-hewn church, blinking in the bright sunlight, your hearts filled with a trembling gratitude. The lower freestanding buildings are looted and burned, but the heart of your sanctuary is safe. The holy books, the sacred vessels, and the lives of the monks have been preserved by the rock. This encounter becomes a legend, a story told and retold in the monastery. It is a story, not of battle, but of a strange, silent confrontation between two kinds of power: the raw, kinetic, world-conquering power of the Mongol horseman, and the quiet, patient, enduring power of the monk's faith, made manifest in the stone. In the weeks and months that follow, you begin to hear more stories from other monks. In towns the Mongol yoke is heavy. They demand crippling taxes, payable in goods, livestock, and silver. They conscript young Armenian men into their vast armies, sending them to fight in faraway wars in Syria or Mesopotamia. Life is hard, and the future is uncertain, but you also hear stories of a different kind. You hear that the Mongol Khans, while brutal in conquest, are often surprisingly pragmatic and even curious in their rule. They are, for the most part, shamanists, their faith a belief in the eternal blue sky, Tengri, and the spirits of the earth. They do not have the same rigid, exclusive theology as the Christians or the Muslims. They tend to be tolerant of the established religions of the peoples they conquer. As long as those religions do not challenge their political authority, you hear a story from a visiting monk that a Mongol general, impressed by the piety and learning of the Armenian clergy, has granted a special tax exemption to the churches and monasteries. You hear that the great Khan's own mother was an Nestorian Christian, and that he keeps Christian priests, Buddhist monks, and Muslim mullahs at his court. listening to their debates with a detached, philosophical interest. It is a strange, new, and confusing world. Your new masters are not the zealous Zoroastrians who wanted to convert you. They are something else entirely. They do not seem to care what god you worship, as long as you pay your taxes on time. One day, a few Mongol officials arrive at your monastery. They are not a raiding party, they are administrators. They come with a translator. They do not come to loot or burn. They come to assess the value of your lands for taxation. It is a quiet, bureaucratic, and somehow more chilling encounter than the first raid. The abbot receives them with a wary respect. He shows them the monastery's fields, its small herd of cattle, its beehive. The Mongol official, a man with a stern, impassive face, makes notes on a wooden tablet. He inspects the church. He looks at the intricate stone carvings with a cool, appraising eye. He does not see a house of God. He sees a well-defended structure, the property of a local power base that must be managed. Historians still analyze the complex relationship between the Armenians and the Mongols during this period. For some Armenian nobles, it was a time of opportunity. They allied with the Mongols, serving as their loyal vassals, and in return, they were given power and autonomy. For the common people, it was a time of immense hardship and crippling taxation. For the church, it was a precarious balancing act, trying to preserve its faith and its people under the rule of a powerful, unpredictable, and alien master. You watch as the Mongol administrators ride away, their assessment complete. The immediate threat of violence is gone, but it has been replaced by something else: the slow, grinding pressure of occupation. Your monastery is no longer just a sanctuary from the world. It is now a tiny, taxable part of the largest land empire the world has ever known. The rock has protected you from the Mongol sword, but you wonder if it can protect you from the Mongol tax collector. The Mongol Empire, like all great empires, eventually fractures and fades, but the peace and stability it provided, however brutal, are replaced by a new era of chaos. Your small kingdom of Armenia is once again a battleground, caught between the rising power of the Ottoman Turks to the west and a resurgent Persia to the east. Centuries of warfare, invasion, and upheaval follow. The great noble families who were the patrons of monasteries like Geghard are scattered or destroyed. The land is impoverished. The population dwindles. The great rock-cut monasteries, once vibrant centers of learning, art, and prayer, begin a long, slow, and quiet decline. The communities of monks shrink. There are fewer novices to take the place of the old masters. The immense, multi-generational effort required to carve a new church from the mountain is no longer possible. The age of creation gives way to an age of simple preservation. You are one of the last monks of Geghard. It is now the 17th or 18th century. The great complex is mostly empty. Only a handful of you remain. A few old men rattling around in a vast, silent, stone masterpiece. You do your best to keep the traditions alive. You light the oil lamps in the main church. You chant the old psalms, but your few voices are thin, a pale echo of the great choir that once made the very rock vibrate. The scriptorium is silent, its books now hidden away for safekeeping. The brewhouse is cold, its great cauldron long since rusted. The world outside has mostly forgotten you. The remote gorge that was once a strategic refuge is now just a mark of isolation. Pilgrims, fearing the dangers of the road, no longer come to venerate the holy spear, which has long since been moved to the greater safety of Ekmyatsin. Are the keepers of a forgotten sanctuary. Your days are a quiet routine of prayer and memory. You walk through the magnificent, empty, rock-hewn chambers. You run your hand over the intricate carvings of the Khachkars, their patterns softened. By the passage of centuries, you tell the old stories to the one young novice who has joined youth, the story of St. Gregory's vision, of the Protian princes, of the Mongol commander who was awed into sparing this place. You are a living library, the last guardian of the monastery's oral history, but you know that it cannot last. When you and your brothers are gone, who will light the lamps? Who will chant the psalms? Who will remember the names of the architects and the saints? Finally, the day comes when the last monk dies, or perhaps simply walks away, seeking refuge in a more populated, less isolated place. The great wooden doors of the monastery fall from their hinges. The silence that returns to the gorge is different. Now it is not the living, prayerful silence of a monastic community. It is the deep, profound, and empty silence of abandonment. The church is reclaimed by the wilderness. Snow drifts into the great hall through the oculus in the dome. Wild goats shelter in the smaller chapels. The intricate stone carvings are slowly weathered by the wind and the rain. The monastery of the spear becomes a ghost, a place of rumor. And local legend, a shepherd might stumble upon it and tell his children stories of the cave city built by giants or magic. But its true history, the story of the faith and the labor that created it, is slowly, completely forgotten. Historians call this a period of dormancy. For 200 or 300 years, Geghard and other rock-cut monasteries like it lie sleeping, their magnificent, carved interiors hidden from the world, waiting in the silent darkness of the mountain, their secrets kept by the stone. They have become a forgotten echo, a lost chapter in the long and often tragic history of your people. Asterisk for centuries, the monastery sleeps. It is a ghost, a half-remembered legend whispered by the shepherds who graze their flocks in the high valleys. The great work of the monk masons lies hidden in the silent darkness, waiting, and then, in the 19th and early 20th centuries, a new kind of traveler comes to Armenia. They are not pilgrims or merchants. They are European explorers, archaeologists, and art historians. They are armed not with swords, but with notebooks, with measuring tapes, with the new, slow, and magical technology of the camera. They have heard the legends of the cave cities, and they come searching for the lost wonders of the Armenian past. You are one of these early archaeologists. You have followed a crude map, a rumor, a line in an old chronicle. You journey for weeks, finally arriving in the remote, breathtaking gorge of the Azot River, and you see it. Carved into the cliff face is a series of openings, a complex of churches and halls that seems impossible, a work of inhuman patience and skill. You stand at the entrance to the main rock-cut church. It is dark, silent, and intimidating. You do not have a flickering oil lamp. You have a bright, hissing gas lantern, or perhaps a powerful electric torch. You step across the threshold, out of the brilliant sunlight and into the cool, ancient darkness. You light your lantern, and as the light floods the space, the church awakens from its long slumber. The light catches the curves of the great dome, the powerful lines of the monolithic pillars, the intricate, lace-like carvings of the cockcars on the walls. The effect is breathtaking. You are standing in a space that was not built, but was unveiled. You run your hand over the stone walls, still bearing the faint, rhythmic marks of 1,000 chisels. You are touching the labor of men who died 700 years ago. You are not a man of faith. Perhaps you are a man of science, of history, but you cannot help but be moved by the sheer overwhelming power of the faith that created this place. What kind of devotion, what kind of belief, could inspire men to spend their entire lives chipping away at a mountain, to carve a cathedral from the inside out, guided only by their trust in God and the vision of their master architect? Your work, and the work of those who come after you, brings Geghard back into the light. The site is excavated, studied, photographed. Its history is pieced together from the monastery's own annals and from the chronicles of the surrounding empires. It is declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a treasure belonging not just to Armenia, but to all of humanity. Today, you are a modern tourist. You arrive not on foot, but in a comfortable, air-conditioned bus. You walk up the same path the monks once walked. You enter the same dark, rock-cut chamber. The air is still cool, still smells of ancient stone, but it is no longer silent. It is filled with the quiet murmurs of a dozen different languages, the soft clicks of cameras, the voice of a tour guide explaining the history of the princes. A local choir stands in the center of the church, the same spot where the monks once chanted. They sing a traditional Armenian sacred hymn, and the church awakens. The stone, a perfect acoustic instrument, catches their voices and amplifies them, creating that same, impossibly long, shimmering reverberation. The sound is an ocean, and for a moment, the centuries collapse. The barrier between the past and the present dissolves. You are hearing the same sound, feeling the same awe, that a weary traveler might have felt 1,000 years ago. You are connected, through the living voice of the stone, to the monks who carved this space as their ultimate act of prayer. The faith that carved a mountain is still echoing. The last notes of the choir fade, the echo reluctantly giving way to silence. The story is complete. You can let the image of the great stone church, bathed in lamplight, begin to dissolve. Let the sound of the chanting fade into the gentle, quiet hum of your own room. The immense, patient labor of the monks is over. Their long, quiet work is done, and now, yours is too. The day is over, and there is nothing left to do but rest. Think of the deep, profound, and peaceful silence inside that mountain church. A silence protected from the noise and chaos of the world by 1,000 tons of living rock. Let that same feeling of perfect, quiet sanctuary settle over you now. Feel yourself safe, secure, held by the quiet darkness of your room. Let your thoughts become as still as the stone. Let your breathing be as slow and as steady as the chanting of the Psalms. You are entering your own sacred space, your own inner sanctuary of rest, a place where you, too, can be renewed. You are drifting now, peacefully and effortlessly, into the deep, solid, and restorative silence of sleep. End of script. Sweet dreams.